Hello and welcome to our discussion on a practical guide to manifestation, tips and tricks for a practical perspective by me, Jessica Carrolls, also known as the Mystic Geek. So let's start off by talking about, well, what is manifesting? We hear that word a lot. Then sometimes our woo-woo sort of terms added to it. Personally, as I said, want to be practical. So I consider manifesting the art and science of turning an idea into a reality. So we have a lot of visions of what it is that we want to create, and manifesting is the art of making that creation. Everything that's out there that's considered an invention started off as someone's idea or someone's thought. So that's another way to frame it. Now, we as humans, either love to overcomplicate or oversimplify. So, on the overcomplicating side, we add a lot of extra terms to the concept of manifestation, including the law of attraction. And we can thank the book The Secret for that. Not to say that these aren't important terms to know. If you like to look at systems and processes to get stuff done that are a little bit more on the woo woo side, then yes, go for these. But I feel like the whole concept of law of attraction or visualization or mindset or the secret or vibrations, all those different things are muddying up the plain art of manifestation, or at least making it seem more complicated than it actually is. One of the ways that this shows up is how people talk about vibration, especially good vibes versus bad vibes. So, what might end up happening is if someone is indoctrinated to believe that they have to express good vibes only because their feelings are attached to their thoughts and their thoughts are attached to their vibrations, and thus if they feel bad about something or if they feel bad in general, they're drawing in bad things to themselves. That's the philosophy of like the frequency side of things. So what ends up happening is if someone has a bad day or if they have a significant life issue, they feel pressured to bury those emotions or move through them as quickly as possible so they can get to those emotional highs, because they believe that only through those emotional highs can they get to manifesting what they want. Likewise, some of the things when we're dealing with like law of vibration and similar things, it leads to the good vibes only, causing a person to distance themselves from other people who may be hurting or may be angry, and possibly even for just reasons. So I find this whole concept of good vibrations only to be challenging, if not problematic. Fortunately, I think we're at the point when we're hitting the meta conversation. And what I mean by that is we're not seeing as much of people like pushing away others or really focusing on good vibes only. We're seeing the reaction to it a lot more, at least in the circles I'm in. I'm not sure about you, but it feels like more people talking down or criticizing the concept of good vibes only versus those who preach it. In addition to that, when we also can oversimplify things. So when we're talking about like law of attraction, manifestation, those sorts of things, where we're taking ideas and bringing them to action, people will end up having discussions on, well, how not everyone is able to do it because of circumstances, or if you're so able to manifest things, why don't you manifest justice in the world? And that's where it gets interesting, because with the whole idea of manifestation, it's more focused on you because it is your ideas, your thoughts, your wants that you're trying to bring into reality. You can use those things, you can call in resources that way that can be used to support other people and also to promote justice. But you can't exactly manifest a just society through one person's actions or one person's positive vibrations, as it were. So that's another thing on there. And then also along the lines of that, we have this whole issue of people believing, well, I can just manifest $1 million, and they end up trying to manifest things that are really broad. Now, why is it that people would want to manifest $1 million? Well, what does that money represent? So, for one person, it may be financial freedom from a crappy job. For another person, it may be access to life affirming or care or life-saving care. Or other people, they may want to just have that money so that they can give it to other people. So at that point, you're looking at feeling good in your job, feeling good about your health, or feeling like you can make an impact in the world. And you don't necessarily need to have that money to do it, but people go that route because they find it to be the fastest or the easiest versus the ones that would require them to make some additional work. So I hope that part makes sense. All right. So the next thing here, so we talked about like the whole good vibes only. What this is a quick example of why just being positive isn't always enough. So if you're not familiar with what this diagram is, what had happened, the story on this is that you had a bunch of fighter pilots come back home after fighting, and these were the ones who made it. They found that these are the common areas where they had the bullet holes, and then also the areas that were left intact. So what people initially thought was, okay, all those areas dotted in red, we would be more successful if we pat and have less people lose their planes and lose their lives if we add armor to the areas that have the red dots. That's called survivor's bias. What is really important is the areas that do not have the dots, those on the planes that went home, those were the areas where if it was hit, it would be critical, if not just outright catastrophic for those pilots in the plane. So if they wanted to help more people be successful, help more people survive, they'd want to patch up the areas where there are no bullet holes because again, those are the critical points. So when we look at the whole idea of manifestation, people are like, well, all I had to do was wish for it and it happened. There's a lot of other factors that can come into play that we're not paying attention to. One of the things that can come up is the idea of privilege. And the way that I think of privilege is having the extra armor on those areas that don't have the bullet holes, as it were. It's if something critical was to happen, you have protections in place. You have people you can fall on back on for support versus those who might not have those sorts of things. They may actually be at a disadvantage and not have any of those key resources that you do that you take for granted. So, food for thought on that. And with that, we're now going to get into the practical side of how to manifest. So, step one is going to be really in your head, and that is about identifying your dreams. So, part of that is figuring out what you want, like what you truly want. Second bit is going to be writing it down. And the reason why that is important is you are taking your idea and you are just making it real on a small level, whether by writing it out on paper or by writing it out on in like a digital notepad. The whole point of getting it out of your head is that initial step. That's it. And then once you have that, being able to set realistic goals and then creating a plan to achieve them. So all the logistical stuff, owning your wants by writing them down and setting those goals there. Now, most of us have seen social media where you have all the people with the luxurious lives and we're like, I wish I had life like that. The universe has opinions. The universe does not like copycats. So when we go and we try to manifest based on someone else's success or someone else's dreams, that doesn't always work. You might set yourself up for failure, or you might set yourself up for success, but that success leads to you feeling discontent because it's not your dream you manifested. You just copied someone else's and thought that was yours. And then you hit that midlife crisis where you realize you've been following everyone else's script and you haven't figured out your own character and your own story. So, quick plug for those who are feeling stumped when it comes to their values. I do have a resource on that, themysticgeek.com/values workbook. Or if you have like your phone on your computer, you can go and like grab that QR code. So the idea here is this is a pretty robust workbook that discusses personal values and walks you through a process to figure out your top values so that you can start figuring out, well, what is important to you in life so you can live life authentically. So there's my little shameless plug there. And let's move on. So we talked about first thinking of what it is that you want to dream about. What are your desires, putting together the goals. Well, the next part is going to be believing in yourself. And when I say believing in yourself, that is where it's already, we said before, setting goals, taking action, focusing on the prize, as it were. Now, another nice way of saying it is it's time for you to get off your butt. You can have all these ideas, you can create plans around them, but unless you get off your butt and actually do something, and it can be sloppy, it can look ugly. I mean, that's going to happen if you're just starting out. But unless you actually take those actions, nothing's going to go. Be brave enough to make those mistakes and realize that in most cases, you will live through them. That's an important part. You will survive those mistakes that you make, and you will learn from them, and you will grow. And through that growth, you'll become better, and then you'll be closer to achieving your dreams. So we talked about creating the idea. We talked about believing in yourself and taking action. So the next part here is really leaning in and visualizing those dreams. So this is where like the vision boards, the inspirational quotes, all of those different things come into play. And why are they important? Well, they're important because whenever we undergo a change, that change can be uncomfortable. We as humans are hardwired for stability, not for change. So, for you to be able to make a change, you have to be to the point where your desire for a better future outweighs the pain that you might feel trying to achieve that future. So, for instance, let's say you want to go for a new job. Well, you might have fear of, well, what does your boss think? You might have fear of, well, what if happens with the interview? You might have fear of, well, what if I don't get the job? All these other fears that can come up of like the what if, the what if, the what if. Your desire to seek a new job has to be stronger than all of the what ifs that are telling you to not even try in the first place. So that is where using tools like vision boards or affirmations come in, is that helps you steel your resolve and helps you think about what might be possible if you move past that initial pain and discomfort. So we talked about your ideas. We talked about pushing that desire to take action, finding ways to make it sustainable, and also the important part we touched upon it in the beginning is set actionable goals. So when we look at these big goals that are out there, we usually think start line, finish line, and that's it. It's important for you to be able to take those goals and break them down into smaller steps that you can track, that you can tick off, or whatnot. So one of the ways that you can do this is what I call the sticker method. So you go through and you take your goal, you break it down into 5, 10, 20, however many steps you want. And then you give yourself a gold star or a sticker every time that you achieve one of those steps. And what you are doing is you are giving yourself the emotional high from those small wins. So you get hungry for more. You want more. You want to be able to get further down your list. You want to be able to move forward and to be able to accomplish those things that you set out to do that seems so big in the beginning, but when you look at it, it's a whole bunch of itty bitty steps that you can do, heck, while you're watching TV in some cases. So we talked about progress before and how it can be messy. Here is the illustration on success. Two different views of what it is. One being the whole linear, that people think that success is boom, point A to point B. In reality, there's this huge messy middle. And I personally find that messy middle to be amazing because that is where your challenges are. It's like if you looked at any movie out there and if the hero just went from point A to point B, we'd have nothing. Heck, Lord of the Rings, boom, done. Where it's like, though that might be okay because we'd save hours. But anyways, you need that messy middle for growth. You need that to figure out who you are so that you can become the person who you need to be to be able to embrace what that success looks like. One of the things that people talk about in the manifestation circles is the concept of acting as if you already got it. And that's not about like you imagining that you have $1 million and taking out a credit card, spending the crap out of it. This is more along the lines of acting as if. So, what would someone who has this type of money or who has a successful relationship or a good business or a solid job, what would their day in the life be like? What would they do? What would they expect? How would they express things? And as you go through your development, where you're able to figure out getting comfortable with both the actions as well as what you receive out of them, that's when you're setting yourself up for reaching that end part when it comes to success. So, yep, as I said before, that is your personal growth point. So, that's the part, as messy as it is, to embrace. And that brings us over to the second to last bit, which is overcoming obstacles. Now, obstacles aren't always a dead end. It isn't always game over for you. An obstacle can simply be a challenge. And it's a matter of first identifying them, second, developing a plan to overcome them, and then finally, keeping yourself motivated on this. So, to go to the job question, maybe having it where someone said no, where you got turned down. And at that point, it's a matter of you now have this obstacle, can't get this dream job you're looking for. The plan would be to try again, possibly see if you can get feedback on that previous interview to see what you did wrong so you can fix it next time. Or heck, even like joining a networking group or a group that can help coach you when it comes to your interviewing skills, that may be another way to overcome that obstacle. So it's a matter of, as long as it's feasible, keep trying, lean into that discomfort and use that as an opportunity for growth. So I did touch upon this before. It is important for you to celebrate your success. Every success you make leaves a new mark on the world that can help you and can help others. So it's important to recognize those achievements. And in addition to that, to see where you started and where you've gotten to. It can be hard, especially if you have a long term goal or ambition, to even remember what it was like to be in those beginning points. Often, when we go through learning something new, we forget what it was like to be in that super beginner mode. So, don't take your success for granted. It is time to celebrate those successes. So, with that, my dear friends, it is time to go forth and do awesome things. Pursue your own dreams, and there is no need to copy someone else's. So, again, I said things briefly. So, here's a little bit more about me. My name is Jessica, also known as the Mystic Geek. Here is where you can find me online at various variations of the Mystic Geek, either with dashes or underscores or without, depending on the platform, because some people took the handle before me, but I still wanted it. So that's how you can get a hold of me. And then one last time, if you are stumped when it comes to what to do next, always start with your values. I do have a workbook that's out there. It's on my website at themysticgeek.com/values workbook. And then you can get that and then find out a little bit more about me and how I help people cut through the hustle of life so that they can handle whatever life throws at them, heal themselves, and then start to heal the world. So, with that, again, I want to thank you for showing up on this, for listening on here. And those are the ways that you can get in touch with me as well. So, with that, I hope that you have a great day.